Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome to our online Gita program. I am Indulekha Dasi, and I will be your guide this evening. We've reached the 8th day of our 9-day festival, which culminates with our Janmashtami program tomorrow. Let me run through how we will spend the evening together. First up is our speaker, followed by a question and answer session. You can post any questions you may have about the class in the Zoom chat box as well as on Facebook. Later on, there will be a competition. I will ask you a question based on this evening's class, and the first correct answer will win a prize. I just would like to remind everyone that tomorrow Gita week will begin at 5:30 p.m., not 7:30 p.m. as we usually have had this entire week. And another thing is that we can only deliver what our internet connection allows us. So please bear with us for any technical glitches that may occur. Now let me introduce you to our esteemed speaker this evening, His Grace Srivasa Prabhu. His Grace Srivasa Prabhu joined ISKCON in Africa in 1981 and was initiated in 1983. He served as a temple president in Nigeria and Ghana. He also served as the BPT manager and regional secretary. After completing his Bhakti Vibe course in 2013, he started teaching courses at Mayapur Institute. He presently serves as in ISKCON as the regional secretary for West Africa. He's a GBC deputy, a member of Task Sannyasi Ministry, an exec for Sustainable Vaishnava Community Development, a zonal supervisor for West Africa, a global duty officer as well, and he has been approved to be an initiating guru. So now let's switch over to His Grace Srivasa Prabhu. Welcome, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for inviting me here to share a few points about Bhagavad Gita and Lord Krishna with your audience. Today we are looking at a verse from the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita chapter 15 is titled Purushottam Yoga, or Yoga of the Supreme Person. And the verse we're treating is the 5th verse, which goes as follows. Nirmana Mohajita Sangha Dosha Adhyatma Nitya Vinirvita Karmaha Dwandwe Vimukta Sukha Dukkha Samgwe Gajanti Amhuda Padam Avyayam Tat. Translation: those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material loss, who are free from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. So this is the verse we shall be discussing today. And before we proceed to discuss, we shall offer some prayers to the previous acharyas, to the Six Goswamis, and ultimately to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Radha and Krishna. Om Jnana Timirasya Jnana Ganashalakaya Chakshuram Malitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaham Dadati Swapadantikam. Vande Hum Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Bitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Asritat Mani Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisai Sasyavari Pasachadi Satarini Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasandubhya Evacha Paritanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gaura Twize Namaha Nityanando Vatutendur Vasuda Pranavalabhaha Janavir Jivitapatir Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavam Mata Jagat Ratna Rapta Gaura Kelevaraha Advaitam Harina Dvaita Acharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Itam Shanadvaita Acharya Ashraye Panchatattvamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopi Gita Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Jayatam Surato Mama Matir Gatir Mat Sarvaswa Padam Bhujo Radha Mandana Mohano Divyat Vrindaranya Kalpadrumanda Srimat Ratat Gara Simhastanastau Sri Sri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Christianipi Sivya Manos Marami Srimam Rasa Rasaram Bivam Sivata Tatastita Karasal Venus Swanai Gopi Gopinata Sri Estu Naha Tata Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Bindhavanishwari Rishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Grim Yakripatamahan Vande Sri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Maravam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandala Karam Vyapta Yena Chara Charam Tatpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So again, those who are free from false prestige, illusion, false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are free from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who are bewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. So this is the verse we shall be discussing this evening. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for this wonderful program of this talks Bhagavad Gita series. Tomorrow we are celebrating the divine appearance of Lord Sri Krishna, and therefore these talks are leading to this wonderful occasion of Sri Krishna Janma, making it possible for us to speak about the appearance of the Lord, to speak about Lord Krishna, to speak about Bhagavad Gita. And I also want to thank the audience for creating the time to participate in all these. This chapter is entitled Purushottam Yoga, or Yoga of the Supreme Person. So this is a very important topic because it describes the reflection of the material world, which Krishna describes as aswatam, urdhva mulam adasakam, aswatam prahur avyayam. Krishna is comparing the material world to a banyan tree which is reflected from the abode of Lord Brahma. Therefore, this tree is having its roots up and its branches down. So the real world is a spiritual world. Our origin is a spiritual world. But the material world is just a reflection of this spiritual world. So therefore, in this chapter, Krishna describes the material world as a swatam, the banyan tree, which is reflected, and the branches are coming down and the roots are up. Of course, it's unusual to find a tree with the branches coming down and the roots up. But that is exactly what this material world is like. Our source, our origin is beyond this material creation. Lord Brahma is the sum total of the Mahatattva. He is the first manifestation of this material world. And so his planet is like the source of this material creation. He is the first personality who was empowered to create the material world. So our source, our root is coming from Brahma's planet. And the branches are just like the various planetary systems. So each branch of this reflected tree represents a different planet where different living entities are living. So the living entities have become enamored by this tree, this reflected tree, and therefore we have developed great attachment to this tree. And as a result, we have simply complicated our lives in this material world. And as a result, we are simply wandering from one branch to another branch, thinking that this reflected tree is our real home. But actually, the living entity does not belong to this material world. In the Bhagavad Gita, actually the same chapter, Krishna says, Mama ivam so jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatanaha. It says, all the living entities that we see in this material world, they are his parts and parcels eternally. In other words, we have a spiritual origin. We are spiritual beings having a material experience. We don't really belong to this material world. And that is why there is birth, there is disease, there is old age, and there is death. Actually, these things are not, no living entity is interested in these four things. Birth is painful, disease is painful, old age is painful, and ultimately death is painful. So no living entity enjoys these things. No living entity wants these things. We are actually working to rectify all the scientific discoveries, scientific efforts is actually meant to rectify these four miseries of birth, disease, old age, and death. We want to stop birth. We want to stop disease. We want to stop old age. We want to stop death. That is what science is all about. But unfortunately, even the greatest scientists, they eventually succumb to these four miserable conditions of life in this material world. So therefore, Krishna has spoken this chapter of Bhagavad Gita to enlighten us that we are caught up in this reflected banyan tree, and we are simply moving from one branch to another branch, and we are thinking that we are in our original situation. And so Krishna is giving us a clue how we can surrender unto him and return to the spiritual world. That is the reason why Krishna is appearing in this world. How to extricate ourselves from this banyan tree, from this reflected tree, is to gain knowledge about the soul, to gain knowledge about Krishna, to gain knowledge about relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So therefore, Krishna appears in this world to give us that knowledge that we need to help us extricate ourselves from this banyan tree. Therefore, we see that Krishna is saying, Vedascha sarvaya aham eva vidya, that by all the Vedas, I am to be known. I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I'm the knower of the Vedas. In this very chapter, Krishna 15:15, Krishna is saying that he is in the heart of every living entity, and he reveals to every living entity. He gives knowledge, he gives remembrance, and he gives forgetfulness. And he is, by the Vedas, he is to be known. So why is Krishna saying so? Because as soon as one understands Krishna, one understands Krishna's identity, one understands his own identity, one understands the relationship between Krishna, the living entity. At once, one is freed from this material world. So therefore, understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, understanding the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, understanding the pastimes of Krishna are very crucial for the living entity's freedom from this world. Therefore, in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Jarman karma chame divyam, that anyone who is conversant with the signs of my appearance, with the signs of my activities, with the signs of my pastimes, such a person, when he leaves this material world, he does not come back to this material world. He goes right to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. So the secret of getting freedom from this material world is to engage in Krishna consciousness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord says, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatu Asuvaryagam Gyanachayat Ahaitukam. That simply by engaging in Krishna consciousness, by engaging in devotional service, the living entity develops detachment and knowledge. And these two things are required for extricating ourselves from this banyan tree. So, as the Lord himself says, that the only way we can extricate ourselves from this banyan tree is to cut down the tree with the knowledge of detachment, with the weapon of detachment. Aswatam inam suviruda mulam. Asangat sastrena dridena chitwa. Chitwa means to cut. We can cut ourselves free. We can cut all the binding ropes to this banyan tree by the weapon of detachment. And so how do we develop the detachment? The Srimad Bhagavatam tells us, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha, that simply by engaging in Krishna consciousness, simply by accepting Krishna consciousness, that the natural result is that one develops detachment, one develops knowledge, costless detachment, and one becomes qualified for going back home, back to Godhead. So Krishna is appearing tomorrow simply because he wants to give us knowledge about himself. If the Lord does not reveal himself, no amount of speculation, no amount of mental gymnastics can allow us to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, from time to time, Krishna appears in this material world to give knowledge. And that knowledge is the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord 5,000 years ago to his dear devotee Arjuna. And this knowledge was given to Arjuna because Arjuna was in a confused state. Arjuna was to execute the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because Arjuna was confused, he was reluctant to execute these orders. And Krishna, being very kind to his devotees, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita. So, Krishna is appearing to speak this transcendental knowledge, this transcendental science of the Bhagavad Gita, in order to provide knowledge for us. And simply by studying this knowledge, we can develop the necessary detachment, which is the weapon which is needed for us to escape this banyan tree. Therefore, the Lord indicates, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadarmanam srijami aham. Krishna is saying in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious principles or the center of Bharata and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I discern myself. So Krishna is appearing so that he can give the world this very special information, special knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And by studying this knowledge, by practicing this knowledge, the living entity can escape this material entanglement. Lord Krishna went on to say, Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya chaduskritam dharma samstapatanaya sambhavami yuga yuga. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So Krishna is appearing to give us this knowledge, to speak Bhagavad Gita, so that the living entity can gain this information. And by following the instructions of Krishna, one can escape this material banyan tree that is binding us to this material creation. It is said that Krishna has 3 special mercies: Vachika Kripa, Alokana Dana Kripa, Harda Kripa. I shall explain. Vachika Kripa means Krishna's mercy in the form of his words. Alokana Dana Kripa means Krishna's mercy in his form, his spiritual form. When Krishna gives darshan of his form, that is his mercy. And then Harda Kripa means Krishna empowering a devotee, Krishna giving his mercy to a devotee from within the heart to enlighten the devotee. So the Bhagavad Gita that we have is one aspect of Krishna's mercy. It is his Vachika Kripa, his mercy in the form of words. When Krishna was to leave Vrindavan for Mathura, the gopis were very disturbed because the life of the gopis depended on Krishna. Day and night, the gopis were singing the glories of Krishna, and they were rejoicing, they were relishing those thoughts of Krishna. And of course, Krishna would fulfill all their desires as such intimate devotees. So when Akrura came from Mathura under the order of Kamsa to take Krishna to Mathura, the gopis will not allow the chariot of Akrura to pass on the road. So Krishna gave them his words. He told the gopis, my dear gopis, do not worry. I am simply going to Mathura for a certain business. I will be back very soon. So don't block the way of the chariot. Let me go. I have a special business to execute in Mathura. And as soon as I finish with that business, I shall return to Vrindavan. So those words Krishna gave to the gopis was very satisfying. The gopis were happy with the words of Krishna, and they allowed the chariot to pass. They allowed Akrura to take Krishna and Balaram to the wrestling match of Kamsa. So those words kept the gopis alive, even though Krishna didn't come back, but those words kept the gopis alive. Similarly, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna was thinking of the devotees that will come in the future. Krishna was in this world at the end of Dwarapa Yuga. And of course, Krishna was thinking of the devotees that will come in Kali Yuga. And so he indirectly put Arjuna into that illusion that Arjuna was resisting or reluctant to execute Krishna's orders. And therefore, Krishna used that opportunity to speak the Bhagavad Gita, not only for Arjuna's enlightenment, but for the enlightenment of all the devotees that will come in Kali Yuga, which includes me and you. So this Bhagavad Gita is the form of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's called the Vachika Kripa, the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In several places, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned that there is no difference between Krishna's words and Krishna himself. Advaya Gyan, anything relating to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as Advaya Gyan. It is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna's words, Krishna's name, Krishna's paraphernalia, Krishna's pastimes, anything related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita Krishna spoke 5,000 years ago. That is Krishna's mercy he left behind in this world. And we can see that anyone who studies Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly, he becomes enlightened. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita has made so many devotees. In fact, before Srila Prabhupada went to America, there were so many editions of Bhagavad Gita, hundreds of them. But those Bhagavad Gitas were translated by non-devotees, by politicians, by unqualified people. And as a result, those Bhagavad Gitas were not able to make one devotee of Krishna. But as soon as Srila Prabhupada went to America in 1965 and began to translate Bhagavad Gita and print Bhagavad Gita, we have seen the millions of devotees of the Lord have come out just by reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just by touching Bhagavad Gita, what to speak of reading Bhagavad Gita, studying Bhagavad Gita, absorbing the message of Bhagavad Gita, one is actually directly relating to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we can see it's a fact. How do we all become devotees? How do we all practice this Krishna consciousness? How are we getting involved in this transcendental activity? Just because we have heard Bhagavad Gita, we have studied Bhagavad Gita, we have imbibed the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So anyone who is relating to Bhagavad Gita is actually relating to the Vachika Kripa of Krishna, the mercy of the words of the Lord. So this is our great fortune. Just by having Bhagavad Gita, we are having the mercy of Krishna. Just by hearing Bhagavad Gita, we are getting the mercy of Krishna. What to speak of, if we are studying Bhagavad Gita every day, we are reading Bhagavad Gita every day, we are actually drinking the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead every day. Now, there is Aloka Dana Kripa. Aloka Dana Kripa means when the Lord manifests his form before the devotee. When the Lord gives darshan to his devotee. For instance, when Krishna traveled from Dwaraka to Mithila, he along the road, the news had spread that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is going to Mithila to visit his two special devotees, Bahulaswa and Shrutadeva. So as the news was spreading, people were lining up along the roadside, all the way from Dwaraka to Mithila. And everybody wanted to catch a glimpse of the beautiful form of Krishna. So this is Krishna's Aloka Dana Kripa. Krishna is giving his mercy by showing his wonderful spiritual form. And just by having the opportunity to see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity becomes liberated. So the same thing, when we see the deity form of the Lord, that is also the Alokana Dana Kripa. Krishna is so kind that he also manifests in this world in the form of his deity, the Achavrigraha. That form is actually non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna says, I and the deity, there is no difference between us. Whatever Krishna can do for us, the deity can also do for us. So when we see the deity form of the Lord in the temple, we should consider that this is another mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is his Aloka Dana Kripa. That is the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He appears in the form of the deity to accept our services, to give us the opportunity to see his form, purify our vision. So this is the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then Harada Kripa. Harada Kripa means the Lord enters the heart of the devotee and he empowers the devotee with knowledge of the scriptures, with knowledge of devotional service. For instance, Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami is an example of a person who received this special mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shukadeva Goswami, Krishna entered his heart and imparted knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, realization, transcendental realization in his heart. And as a result, he was able to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam to the hearing of Parikshit Maharaj and all the great sages that had assembled on the banks of the Ganga. So, similarly, we see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also empowered Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami. Lord Chaitanya entered into their hearts and empowered them so much so that they could write all the necessary scriptures and rediscover Vrindavan, establish all the beautiful sites of Krishna's pastimes. That is Harada Kripa, the Lord entering the heart of a devotee and empowering him to do unusual things. Actually, somewhere in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada mentions that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that anyone who chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra very sincerely, because the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not different from Krishna. Krishna and his name are the same. So anyone who chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra very sincerely, he becomes empowered beyond his own understanding. He becomes so empowered that he can execute so many wonderful things beyond his own comprehension and beyond the comprehension of the world. So this chanting of the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which is the names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has been imported from the spiritual world for the living entities of this world. And anyone who is chanting this mantra every day very sincerely will be so empowered by the Lord that he can do extraordinary things. He can go beyond his means to do wonderful things. So that is Harada Kripa. The Lord enters the heart of the devotee and empowers him so much so that the devotee can perform wonderful services. So Krishna is so kind to us that he has made all these different mercies. Vachika Kripa, Alokana Dana Kripa, and Harda Kripa available to us in this material world. That is one of the reasons why the Lord has come. He came simply to help the living entity connect with the spiritual world. Unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, we are all very absorbed in this material creation, but what we see is a lot of trouble. Material progress is usually accompanied by some distress, because the concept of progress is simply narrowed down to economic progress, forgetting that man has a physical nature, a metaphysical nature, and a spiritual nature. And therefore, we see that the Bhagavad Gita is addressing all these aspects of man. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:4, Krishna is talking, 7:4 and 5. He says, Bhumi apo nalo vayu kam mano buddhi evacha. Ahankara iti yame dina prakriti astaha. The earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, all together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. So the 5 gross material elements, they constitute this body. 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. All material bodies are made of these 5 gross elements. And then we have mind, intelligence, and false ego. That is the metaphysical, is a subtle body. And beyond that is the soul proper. So Bhagavad Gita addresses the physical aspect of man, the metaphysical aspect of man, and the spiritual aspect of man. That is the unique nature of Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport of the very first verse of Bhagavad Gita that one will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, But the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is the specific standard of the Gita. It is the perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. So, the knowledge of the soul, the knowledge of mind, intelligence, and ego, and knowledge of the material body are all nicely described in the Bhagavad Gita. So we can see the Bhagavad Gita is giving us a systematic approach to life. Instead of just focusing on economic activities, and that is what this banyan tree stands for. The banyan tree stands for fruitive activities, economic activities that are binding to a living entity in this material world. But as soon as we have the opportunity to study Bhagavad Gita, then we begin learning the science of Krishna. Krishna Tattva Veda, knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is what will take us out of this material world. So therefore, we see that Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the concluding words of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is requesting everyone to surrender unto him. That is what this verse is talking about, how to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, this is the process of surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna has come to give us the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, and by studying Bhagavad Gita, we can learn the process of surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone in this material world is thinking, I'm free to do whatever I like. But actually, we are not free. We are all under the laws of the material energy. Mama Maya Duratyaya, Krishna is saying that this material energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. And everyone is under this material energy, the laws of material nature. Maya Dakshina Prakriti, Suyati Sacharacharam. The material world is working under the directions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes we think this material world is just operating on its own. No, the material world is operating under certain specific laws. And these laws are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing is by chance. Everything is by plan. Everything has been planned. The sun rises early in the morning and sets in the evening. We don't see the sun rising from the west or rising from the south or rising from the north. The sun always rises from the east. This is by plan. The moon is coming. The seasons are coming. The rains are coming. The trees are growing. Vegetables are growing. Grains are produced. This is not by chance. This is by supreme plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, our duty is to understand that everything is coming from the Lord. And therefore, our duty is to surrender to the Lord. So we see in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, verse 66, Krishna is talking about this surrender. Sarva dharma parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papabhyo mokshayishami masuchaha. Krishna is saying, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So the whole of this verse is talking about the process of surrender. How can we surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and become free from all the entanglements of this banyan tree and return to the spiritual world? And so in the purport of that verse, Srila Prabhupada talks about the 6 divisions of surrender. Anukulasya sankalpa, partikulasya varyanam, rakshishishyati vishasyo, goptritve varanam tataha, admanishekpa karpanye, sarvida sharanagati. The 6 divisions of surrender are acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, rejecting those unfavorable things for devotional service, having the full conviction that Krishna will give us protection, accepting the Lord as one supreme maintainer and master, full surrender to the supreme personality of Godhead, always thinking as Krishna desires, and by always taking a humble position, karpanye or dhanya, a humble position before the supreme personality of Godhead. So if we follow, as Prabhupada is describing in the purport of this verse, then we can be free from this tree of the banyan tree, the reflected tree, temporary material tree, and we can go back to the spiritual world, as Krishna is telling us in the 6th verse. Natat basayete suryo, nasasankot napavaka, yat gatwa nivartante tad dharma paramamamam. Krishna is telling us that once we return to the spiritual world, we do not have to come back to this material world. I think I'm supposed to leave some 10 minutes for some questions and answers. I don't know what is the situation now. How much time do I have? Induleke Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, yes, we have overstepped our time limit and there are a few questions that have come through. So would you like to answer them, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
Okay, but before we move on to your questions, I want to say thank you, Prabhu, for your illuminating talk. And sorry, we're really sorry for keeping you up so late. I know it's close to 12 p.m. in Vrindavan right now. So sorry about that.
No problem.
And also, before we move on to today's questions, let me ask today's competition question, which is, who is the first created being in this material world? Let me repeat the question. Who is the first created being in this material world? So please post your answer on the Zoom chat box and on Facebook. So let's move on to the first question that we have. This is from, I'll read it out. It's from Kush Rampasad. He says, Hare Krishna, how does one see spirituality and the power of God in the midst of the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you very much. Krishna is very kind. Krishna has created this material world for us. And he has put in place certain laws, rules, and regulations for the living entities to follow. When the living entities deviate from the laws of God, then we should expect some reactions. So this COVID-19, we can say that because mankind have actually gone beyond certain limits, so much animal sacrifice, so much slaughter of animals, so much has been done against the principle of religion. And that is why Krishna has allowed this pandemic to affect the world. So it is said that no blade of grass can move without Krishna's sanction. So for us as devotees, we understand that Krishna has sanctioned this COVID-19 for a reason, because the people of this world are refusing to accept the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They think that science can save them. They think that they can do anything and go scot-free. Krishna is telling us, no, the world is under control. And so we can see even the most advanced economies, they're also affected so seriously by this COVID-19. So it is a reaction which is coming from the sinful activities of the world. When sense overrides the activities of the world, we should expect a reaction. We should expect some consequences. So this COVID-19 should be seen as the mercy of the Lord also, that he's telling us that we are not independent. No one is independent. The Lord is in control. And therefore, it is making everyone to understand this principle that no one is independent. So for the devotees, we see that it's an opportunity to go deeper. It's an opportunity to study the scriptures more scrutinizingly. It's an opportunity for us to make more spiritual advancement. And actually, many devotees across the world, they are seeing how this COVID-19 has actually enhanced their spiritual development. There may be some difficulties here and there, but overall, many devotees are feeling that this is an opportunity for us to make progress back home, back to Godhead.
Thank you. Thank you for so eloquently answering that question, Prabhu. We'll move on to our next question. Sorry, but before we move on to that question, we do have a winner. The correct answer was Lord Brahma for our competition, and the winner is Karishma Prahlad. Karishma, please send your details to the host, your email details. Thank you, so she can contact you. Okay, our next question, Prabhu, it's from Mansukh Prabhu. So Mansukh says, welcome, Prabhu. With due respect, the organizers of this fascinating program left the best for last. So he's talking about you, Prabhu. My question is twofold. The first part of the question says, why was only Arjuna confused? Being the best archer, the other brothers had no issues participating in the Great War. So that's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is the concept of illusion. Is what we see a mere illusion? Is Kepler correct in saying that everything we see is a mere energy vibrating at a certain frequency? If you want to answer the first question, and then I can read you the second part of the question later on.
Okay,
again.
yeah, let's start with the first question, then we'll go to the second.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, the Arjuna actually is a constant companion of the Lord. Narayan Rishi. Krishna is Narayan and Arjuna is Nara Rishi. So they're always together. Actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna that I spoke these signs of Bhagavad Gita to a sun god millions of years ago. And Arjuna was doubtful. He said, my dear Krishna, me and you are of the same age. How can you convince me that you spoke this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to a sun god millions of years ago? And Krishna told him, you and me and all these kings, we have always lived. But you have forgotten, but I have not forgotten. So Arjuna is a constant companion of the Lord, and therefore the Lord wanted to use him to educate the rest of the world. Just as I said, that this Bhagavad Gita is not actually spoken for Arjuna. Krishna just used Arjuna as a recipient of this knowledge for us in Kali Yuga. Assuming that Arjuna was not confused, if Arjuna had executed Krishna's orders from the very onset and Bhagavad Gita wasn't spoken, then yourself and myself will be in big trouble. But because Krishna was thinking of all the future devotees, all of you, including myself, Krishna kindly put Arjuna into that illusion. And as a result, he spoke Bhagavad Gita. And today, we are relishing the message of Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, the other brothers, they are also devotees of the Lord, but Arjuna was a special devotee because Arjuna is a constant companion of Krishna, and therefore he helped the Lord in so many ways as an intimate friend, intimate devotee. So therefore, Krishna used him for this occasion for speaking Bhagavad Gita. He has spoken the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god before. It is also said even he spoke the Bhagavad Gita to other personalities before. Somewhere Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that if Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, he could also have spoken the Bhagavad Gita to the moon god. So that means Krishna can speak this science of Bhagavad Gita to any of the personalities, ruling personalities of the universe, because this knowledge is actually meant for the righteous kings, Raja Rishis, so that they can use this knowledge to administer their citizens. So this knowledge is supposed to be studied by our politicians, studied by our leaders. And when they understand this knowledge perfectly, then they can rule their citizens very nicely and facilitate both their spiritual progress as well as their material progress. Unfortunately, in this age of ours, in these times of ours, our leaders are not interested in spiritual life, what to speak of studying Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is spoken to Arjuna because Krishna wanted to use Arjuna to educate us. And as a result, because of that, me and you are here this evening discussing Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Shall I read you the next part of the question? Yes, the second. It's the same person. This was their second part of their question. This is from Mansukh as well. The concept of illusion. Is what we see a mere illusion? Is Kepler correct in saying that everything we see is a mere energy vibrating at a certain frequency? I think he's referring to Johannes Kepler, who was an astronomer and mathematician and scientist. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, actually, everything is the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Krishna says in the 10th chapter, verse 8, that everything is emanating from him, both spiritual and material. So the energy that we are seeing is actually coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also, Daivi Maya, Krishna talks about this, Daivi Maya, in the 7th chapter, 7:14, Daivi Maya. Krishna said this divine energy of mind. So even this material energy that is before us, we're thinking it is material, but actually is where is it coming from? What is its source? The source of this energy is Krishna. And Krishna says, Daivi Maya, that this divine energy of mind is very difficult to overcome. So all energies, spiritual or material, they are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So illusion comes when Krishna is removed. When we remove the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we're an illusion. We see the material energy separated from Krishna. And that is what is called illusion, Maya, which is not, that which is not. But as soon as we link Maya or the material energy to Krishna, then we can see that it is also coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, everything can be converted into spirit. Even matter can be converted into spirit. For instance, when we cook our food, the ingredients of the food is bought from the same market. We use the same pots to cook the food, the same fire to cook the food. But as soon as the food is placed before the deity of the Lord, and we say the requisite prayers, the recommended prayers for offering food to the Lord, that same material food bought from the same market, cooked with the same pot, by the same fire, once it is offered with love and devotion to the Supreme Lord, immediately the food is no more material. It becomes spiritual. It becomes prasad. And simply by eating that prasad, one can feel some transformation taking place in his life. In fact, many of us have become devotees simply by taking the remnants of food, prasadam, offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we can see that it's a question of consciousness. Whatever we describe as illusion simply means minus Krishna, minus the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as soon as we add Krishna, it becomes spiritual. And of course, everything is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as I said, it's a matter of consciousness. It's a matter of understanding. It's a matter of putting things in the right perspective.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for answering that question so beautifully. We're so grateful for your association this evening. And so are quite a few of our audience members. I will read out some of the comments to you just now. But before I do that, I'd like to mention that tomorrow the class will be at 5:30, not at 7:30 as we have been usually having. It will be at 5:30. And to link onto the Gita class tomorrow at 5:30, please click on the Zoom link, the Janmastami Zoom link. If you don't have access to SSRT WhatsApp or the Facebook page, I'm sure it'll be posted on the Facebook page as well. You can click, Surabhi Kunj has put up the Zoom link in the Zoom chat box, and you can copy it there, and then you will be able to join us. So tomorrow, please don't use the Gita link, use the Janmastami link. So let me read some of the comments that people have been saying. So Bhavatya Nathu said, thank you for that lovely talk. It was really enlightening. Happy Janmastami. Another one from Praveen Ram, most illuminating lecture, a privilege to have heard. Raghunath says, Hare Krishna, wonderful class. Happy Janmastami. Mansukh says, blessed Krishna Janmastami to you, Prabhu. And yes, Mansukh also says, thank you, Prabhu. Such beautiful answers. I'm honored to have the privilege to listening to your responses. So you have so much appreciation from the audience today. And thank you so much for staying up till so late and giving us your association, Prabhu. So we've come to the end of our, yes, and we'd love to see you in South Africa soon. We'd love for you to come and visit our country and give classes live here. Thank you, everyone. So I'd like to thank our technical people who are Surabhi Kunj and Amritamani, as well as Champakalata and Krishangi. And thank you to all of you who have joined this evening and spent this evening online with us. So we'll see you tomorrow online at 5:30, not 7:30. And Hare Krishna, and have a happy and wonderful Janmastami. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you. We wish everybody a beautiful Janmastami. Nice.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.